Well, time to work on the Corvair. There's the old gasket between the transmission and the differential. Not too usable. So I went into my huge collection of Corvair gaskets, and all I could find was what I think is an automatic transmission gasket. And at this late date, to get to the Syracuse Corvair recall, I just took my little ball peen hammer, made in USA, probably, and tap, 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 and just chopped out the unnecessary pieces. I don't know why I don't have a 4-speed gasket. And there it is. Now, a couple things that have come up that got my curiosity aroused. I tried to take off this snap ring. Well, I did take it off with the special snap ring pliers, thinking maybe I could just take a peek at this bearing, but I was only able to lift it out about 1/8 of an inch. So, make sure that snap ring is back in place. And I noticed that this aluminum piece rotates slightly, and I also found this snap ring sitting in one of these holes. I forget which one now. Just sitting there. Mangled snap ring. I wonder where that came from. I don't see where it would have come from. Doesn't look like it belongs in there. What stops that from rotating? Look over at the differential. It's got this bolt on this end play adjuster ring. So maybe that bolt sits inside that hole and stops this assembly from rotating. Terrible when you're such an amateur at this. I haven't looked at one of these in 30 years, so I forget what I'm looking at. Not that I knew very much back then, I'm a big parts replacer. And also, big oil hole here. And there's no hole in either gasket, and there's no place on the transmission for that oil to go in or out, the transfer hole. So I don't know why there's a big hole there, because that hole corresponds with this hole. But that big hole, nothing. Because this is just past 6 o'clock. And those holes are over here. So I don't know what that does. Yeah, I got this oriented properly. This is actually facing the other way. This is facing as if the car was turned around. That would be pointing towards the front of the car. Nope, toward the back of the car rather. Normally the differential sits the other way. I've got it spun around. So this is in the proper orientation because this is the bell crank for the throttle, which is on the driver's side. So yeah, starter's on the driver's side, so I got that right. So you'd think that that big oil transfer hole would line up with that oil transfer hole. Huh. Oh boy. I have got the old transmission couple here. That transmission's from a 65, I think, which is the same as a 64 pretty much. And I've got the old differential from that Spyder that I never even scrapped yet. That's the differential with 355 gears. I don't feel like pulling it apart, taking it apart, but that's the transmission and differential that came with the motor that I'm putting back in this Corvair. I wonder why. You'd think that that big oil hole would line up with that hole. Well, not much I could do about it now at this late date. I tried to call one of the guys on the Corvair Center Forum. He didn't answer his phone. Magic Jack. So, yeah, I don't know anything about manual transmissions. Never took one apart, never watched one take apart or put back together. Clean those splines a bit, that's all I can do. I wonder why the oil transfer hole doesn't line up. I guess I'll fill the differential and I'll fill the transmission. Not much I can do about it. Look at that. Holes right there. But no hole in the transmission. Oh well. So I put a bit of silicone on the surface. Just a thin coat. Anything more than a thin coat just squeezes out and gets in places it doesn't belong. And I'm going to spray down the diffie now, make sure I get the rebuilt diffie. Yeah, there's the junk one. This is the rebuilt one. I'm going to spray it a little bit. And dry it off a little bit, even though this stuff is low VOC compliant. It still cleans really well and dries really fast. I'm going to put a little bit of silicone on that surface, just a little bit. Mostly at the bottom. We got some spiders crawling out. I got loose spider gears. Yeah, my spider gears are crawling out of the case. I'm going to kill my spider gears. Yep, just killed my spiders. Oh, still got some carrots left over. Yep, where'd that snap ring come from? Good question. Found it right there. Alright, time to spill a bit more differential oil on the ground. And time to bake the donuts. Bolts. Bolts going backwards. Clutch release shaft snaps on to the pivot on the diffie, snaps in, snaps around, click. Make sure I have it engaged properly. Yep. Got more grease on my hands. I got a nice rag here. And bolt is, where did I put those bolts that I just ground the slots into? On top of the old differential cover. I'll stick a couple of these through the holes. Put a bit of oil on them. Fluid film. One more bolt. Could use a second person to help me here. Mr. Enfield Police. Mr. Blackhawk, haven't heard from you in a while. This is the easy part. Holding it up is the hard part. Oh, it's hard on the wrists. Oops. Well, I think the way to do this is put the bolt through the starter hole. Remember, it's been so long. How about a C-clamp? Yeah, that's what I thought I did. Stick one of these through the starter hole. Make it a little bit easier than trying to thread them through the back. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing up here. Move the camera back. Putting one of the bolts through the starter hole just to hold it in place. Phew! Put that bolt go. Oops, tripping over the clutch release rod. Yep. Got that all figured out. Don't you love those screwdriver slot tricks I showed you? Oh yeah. Whew. Gotta find that bolt pitched backwards. Put the clutch transmission input shaft in. Output shaft and output shaft. Oh, where'd that bolt go? Somewhere. Give me a minute, I'll find it.